Hey, Mr. Privateer, welcome to F.A.C.E. I'm now making you the presenter. Looking forward to meeting you and want to thank you for taking time out of the slowest trading day of the year to join us. Welcome to F.A.C.E, Privateer. Here you go. Drop down menu for mic, for screen.
Yeah, should be on. Can you see me?
Can see you, can hear you. Very nice to meet you, my trading warrior brother.
Nice to meet you, Dale. I'll have to say straight away, I appreciate what you do and what you say. Your consistency. I think I mentioned to you, I don't believe in God or whatnot, but I do really enjoy the way you start your day on a positive note with consistency and your value system. So thank you for that, even though you and I diverged a little bit there, but I appreciate that.
I bet we don't diverge about the perseverance that Tiger Woods showed in his career. And as a trader, Privateer, I bet you could really understand how you have to live through adversity and have the perseverance to win again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I heard Blake earlier say he was in tears. A lot of us in the trading community can relate to that because in my mind, you know, what is trading? It's basically a series of failures and how you get up off the canvas.
Wow.
That gives you a career in trading.
Yeah. So we all have to be Rocky Balboa, right, buddy?
You kind of do. You kind of do. And let me tell you my story. And one
Before
of the
you do, I'm curious, and maybe a lot of the viewers don't know, what is a privateer?
Yeah, what is Privateer FX, or what is a privateer?
No, what is a privateer? Because obviously you selected that handle for a reason of what it represents, right? So what is it?
I have to say, smarter guys than I selected it.
Okay.
We've got four guys here. The guy in Dublin selected it. He's got an acute sense of humor. I believe he says it's something like, we are not pirates, but we are privateers, and it's some sort of British Anglo angle. I wish I could give you a better answer.
Okay, because most people would associate it with piracy, but what it is, I think, and you could check with your partner, it's someone who had their own ship, and you know, I tell all the people I mentor, even though I share ideas, we're all captains of our own ship, but I think it's an independent ship owner who goes out and does
Searches
commerce.
for treasure.
I think before they call them merchants, you know, merchant shipping.
Yes,
they were privateers.
Right, Nick, you might be right. Even if you're not right, I'm going to take that.
Treasure is the aspect, right? Okay, so you're seeking treasure in the FX market as a trader. That's a great handle.
That's basically it.
So go ahead back to your story and tell us about your treasure hunt.
Yeah, I'll tell you about my journey because a lot of people listen to me at the European Open, but there is a group of us. There's a fella, again, who's smarter than myself, who trades for the same family I trade for. We run managed accounts for one of, I would say, the more famous American families out there. I don't want to share the name. Okay. For their sake. They are very old-fashioned, discreet group of people. So we'll just leave it at that.
Someone once told me, Privateer, and I haven't had to really worry about it, and I certainly didn't take their advice with, you know, being on social media, but he said, Dale, make your money in a closet.
Yeah, or the nail that sticks out gets hammered was what I told him.
You have as many of them as me, so you have privateerisms.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, so there's a group of us. It's not even really clear where we're going to go with this privateer, but what we do with it is there are a team of risk takers in America, and is a team of risk takers over here in Europe. And one of the reasons I put my ideas up and I do my morning resume is after 30 years, I don't like to listen to other people, but the young guys in our firm do like to listen to me or are told to perhaps listen to me or whatnot. So this is a really good framework for, you can hear me speak, I don't have to hear you speak, which just usually annoys me, and you can see what I'm thinking real time. And so this is why we have privateer for now. I don't know where it's going. So that's just a little bit. A lot of people are like, well, what are you going to do with privateer? I have no idea.
Well,
Right
okay.
now,
All right.
right
So
now,
when you were a young guy, like the guys you talk to now, who were you
yeah,
listening to?
yeah. I started in '91, so I was a New York City market maker in European currencies. I worked for 3 different banks, was fired from each of those jobs. Uh,
Why?
and I worked during a period. Well, I'm quite bad at following rules. I'm a bit of a rule breaker, law breaker. I
Oh,
wouldn't say law breaker, but I just don't like to be told what to do. And
yeah.
you
Compliance can
know,
be restrictive.
yeah, and then the position limits, and
Yeah.
and I was a smart ass. I was basically a Muppet, basically. But you could survive back in the '90s as a Muppet because of the spreads, right? So everyone thought they were great traders.
Yeah. You're
Um,
right.
because we had massive spread back then. And so I was a market maker, and I became like a lot of market makers back then. If you worked for the right shops, I did some very, very serious volume at some very, very key times. Like one of the reasons I became somewhat known was, again, pure luck. I got paid at the all-time highs in Mark Lira. I don't know if people probably don't even remember this, but this is before the euro.
Yeah.
Made $1 million, pure luck, made some price out of my ass. The guy pays me. It's the all-time high. But those are the kind of moments where you develop a little bit of a reputation, and you see some more flow. And I always consistently made money, but I also always consistently broke limits, rules, overnight limits. I was just basically, sort of a bit rebellious during that time.
Okay. I have a question for you, and I'm
Yeah,
kind of a maverick myself, but you know what? The market can humble anybody. And if you're the type of person that breaks rules, breaks limits, it's kind of hard to drive a taxi cab, even if you're a great driver in New York, and not get a traffic ticket. Didn't you have a traffic ticket with that type of psyche and mindset? Have you ever blown out any? Have you ever had a bad year in a day?
absolutely. During those days, my VAR, my value at risk during the day, was absurd. But of course, again, it got obfuscated by the spread. So
Okay.
I always
All
made
right.
money.
All right. So
Um,
what Privateer is talking about is during, pre-internet, where everything decimalized and everything, and when you used to have even open outcry, brokers could make money. They were, a quarter spread. There were bigger spreads, and a lot of guys got rich. And then when their decks were taken away, to stay in the business, they had to learn how to be right in the markets, and many weren't able to make that transition. Sounds like you were able to.
yeah, I'll segue into many is one of the greatest understatements of all time, Dale. 99%, 99% failed. I can think of 100 guys that I shared those New York years with.
Yeah,
5 are dead.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
90 are out of the business, and there's maybe 4 of us left. And what's odd is the 4 of us that are left weren't really the heroes. We were guys who just worked our asses off and kept learning our craft and kept failing and then fixing it and then failing and then fixing it. So imagine me, I've been fired from every job I've ever had in trading. And some guy calls me up and he goes, "Listen, New York's not too healthy for you. You should move to Europe and we should trade PA together. And we'll leverage our money 40 times and we'll just sort of travel around the world trading PA." And
Okay.
again,
Wow.
I was so stupid that I thought I could do it. I didn't realize how hard that would be without any spread and pure alpha, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the guy who asked me to do this turned out to be kind of a superstar, probably the single greatest pound for pound trader I've ever met. And this is the guy who really taught me my craft. So I just
Wow.
dropped
You got
everything in New
lucky.
York. I did get lucky, and this is part of everyone's journey. There is some luck
Okay.
in
I
everyone's
call
journey.
it providence.
It is. And if you surround yourself by great people, which I try and do, you can kind of make your own luck in a sense, you know,
Yeah,
like, you
I
know,
love
there's a reason this guy and I were friends. We shared humor, we shared a lot of things, but also like I was no dummy, right? The guy was one of the best traders in the world, and you want to learn from these type of guys.
Yeah.
And to make a long story a little bit shorter, so I moved to Europe, no papers, no insurance, nothing, $40,000 to my name. We leveraged this money up 40 times. And then over the next 3 years, I'm kind of traveling around the world. So every 9 months, I'd move to a different city, Paris, and Biarritz, Singapore, Geneva. And he was also moving around, London, Tokyo, Toronto. And
What an adventure.
yeah, and he basically taught me risk reward and how to trade and the key features in being a professional trader, which number one is never lose your seat. So risk is premium. And you can imagine when you're 40 times leveraged, you can never make a mistake, never. So we sort of developed this system where we would get into trades, what we would call free trades, similar to what you do, I think, Dale. You're a Forex stop hunter. We see these weak points in the market, and if you just get long or short at these weak points, you can kind of get a free trade. And so if your downside is close to zero and you have the balls to hold it, you can make a fair bit of money. And of course, it was a lot easier to make this money pre-algo and pre this volatility. You can't really do that, but we did that for 3 years, and we made a fair bit of money. You know, doubled, tripled, quadrupled our money, including our lifestyles, which was just all on a credit card. We didn't have bank accounts. We just had one Visa, and then we would pay cash, 9 months cash in advance for rent, and just move from place to place. Then eventually, you know, some people kind of saw us, and they asked us to do a hedge fund. And this is where also luck and falling down and getting up works again. So we took another partner. There were 3 of us, and we started this hedge fund with $1 million. And all these people who said to us, "Oh, you guys should start a fund, you know, and you're pretty known now, and you're a known commodity." Then we asked them for money. They all said no. Every single one of them said, "No, your track record's not long enough. You don't have enough under management. You're too young." Because mind you, I was 30, and these other Muppets, they were 27. So we were youngsters at the time.
Mm-hmm. Actions speak louder than words. Easy to say, you know, you should start a fund, we'll participate. Yeah, cutting the check is another thing, isn't it?
That's exactly it. But here's the thing. Again, it was part of our stubbornness and part of our just general stupidity. We just believed that this was going to work. So we just knocked on 250 doors. And the first 249 doors all said no. It took a year. We spent, I don't know, 70 grand of travel and entertainment in London, New York, Geneva, Zurich, Tokyo, where we had connections, of course. We were all bankers, and these guys who I were with were even somewhat famous. They all said no. And then one guy finally said yes. And he was like from a biggish name, at the point where we were like, this is
ready to give up.
Yeah, just about to give up. And to the point where, you know, you're at the Sanderson Hotel. It's a Thursday night. You're at the Sanderson Hotel in London with your partner. The third partner doesn't even want to come to this meeting because he knows the guy's going to say no.
He can't handle rejection anymore.
Yeah, you know, and we probably had too many mojitos. We, you know, typical night at the Sanderson, and we show up like a big groggy, 8 o'clock in the morning at one of these London shops. And this guy just goes, "All right, you're done here." And then it just cascaded. And for 7 or 8 years, we ended up raising close to $1 billion. And I'm not saying that because blah, 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 $1 billion. What I want to say is over that time frame, it was, again, a series of massive failures. So
you learn the most from your failures, okay?
You do. And this is what I want to.
Go ahead. So
this is what I want to tell the internet here, because I'm now getting a lot of people who are coming onto my Twitter saying, "Oh, can you help me with this? Can you train me with this?" And I want to say that Number one, Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours works for some, but it took me 30,000 hours,
Yeah.
to become great at this.
I never heard of that 10,000 hour thing.
Yeah, he basically said in order to become, professional quality at anything, you got to put in 10,000 hours, which is basically 5 years at 10 hours a day.
All right, screen time.
Yeah.
And you can't learn experience. It only happens with the passing of time and living through
Correct.
stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
And as you said, your failures teach you far more than your successes. But you can imagine, again, here come the failures again. So you do great with $4, you can trade $8, and then you got to trade $50. Then you got to learn to trade $100, and then you got to learn to trade $200. You have no idea. And what works on 10 million certainly doesn't work on 50 million as well, and certainly doesn't work at all on 200 million, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so again, it's these series of failures which teach you how to change, how to evolve, how to get this thing done. And it's incredibly hard. Like, everyone glamorizes this business on the internet, on the Instagrams, on the things.
You mean the $10,000 millionaires that rent a Ferrari and a private plane and are sitting on a beach with a drink? Them?
Dale, you and I are putting nails through our temples when we see that bullshit. I mean, it's unbelievable, but people believe it, and it's sad, because I get direct messages from people all over the world now, and I keep trying to tell them, dude, you have no idea what you're getting into. You can't just start this at 41 years old and then think you're going to be a millionaire at 42, starting with $2,000 and zero experience. So the reason I'm telling my story is it is freaking hard. It is really, really hard. And
it's
the business.
It's a tough way to earn an easy buck, someone once told.
Yes. And I have 2 daughters, and there's 2 things I won't let them do. They won't become ballet dancers because I don't like the whole ballet industry. And they
would hurt their toes, man.
That's
you don't want your daughter.
That's right. And they cannot become traders because it's too hard. It's too hard for the normal person because you have to live this abnormal life and learn to react to things in an opposite fashion that's normal.
Do they have to marry a doctor or a lawyer, privateer?
No, they can do whatever. Those are the only 2 rules. And I guess they probably, no prostitution, I guess, 3rd rule.
You are a character, man. I'm so glad I reached out to you. All right. So, we've been talking here. What a great story, and how fortunate you were, because you talk about, the trading floors aren't there. That was a great place to rub elbows with pros and hang out with pros and all the charlatans on the internet. And, you compared, and even though it was a tough road, at least it was a road that wasn't a detour to hell. And a lot of people, turn, buy. I will sell you the secret of trading for $5,000. And you just told everyone what the secret is: hard work.
Yeah, hard work and stubbornness. And every time you get knocked down, every time you're in the fetal position in the dark on a Saturday morning because you can't believe just what happened, the illogical move that just happened, or they ran your stops, you're 80 points in the money and now you've scratched it. All of these things are real, and people need to get that through their head and be super, super careful.
How do you protect your health, privateer? You talk about all this stress, and we know what stress does to the body. So, I think that's an important thing too, because, I had a major health issue, right? So,
I heard about that. Yeah.
So what do you do? Do you train when you make sure that you live an athletic type lifestyle to be in a peak performing state, which is difficult to do every day? What's your routine?
Yeah, I think I, again, should tell the full story, because I could tell you the varnished story and the beautiful story that I'm in peak condition and I train every day. In my 20s, I used alcohol to run away from my problems. In my 30s, it was less, but still. And it wasn't until my 40s that I realized that the most sensible way for me personally to survive this business was to do fitness in nature. So I, of course, live in Switzerland.
Beautiful.
I take the road bike out, these 10-speed bikes, and I ride up I ride uphill in them. That's what I like to do. I like riding up the mountain. It's a great metaphor for pushing the rock and for trading.
Yeah,
And I also
it is.
ski. But when I ski, I don't ski downhill anymore because when you're in Switzerland, that gets quite boring. I walk uphill. So again, I do ski touring. And oftentimes I do this at sort of 5 a.m. So pre-sunrise, and you want to get to the top of the mountain at the sunrise, quite invigorating. It's the one time of my day where I'm not thinking about euro dollar or implied
Right.
vol or when ES is going to turn or OPEC
Cool.
this week. And that's the way I survive the stress. But also again, it's a little bit easier for me at 50 because, you know, I kind of have the fuck you money now. So my trading now is just also a little bit different. And I'm not saying that to be like a jerk. I don't want to be a jerk. I just want to be honest with people that it's hard. And I couldn't have done that in my 30s and 20s because it was a 20-hour day. The phone rang all night. I took fills at 3 a.m. You couldn't get up at 5 and go on your bike because you were smoked. You were exhausted the whole time. For decades, I was exhausted.
Okay.
So
That's
I just want to throw that reality check out there to
Okay,
people.
that's a great story. So, really great content in this interview. So, you chose to show the S&P chart. Were you
Yeah.
long? Have you ever seen, and you've been around for a while, a market break the way it did in December, the worst year since 1931, worst December since 1931, and rebound with such magnitude without one correction?
No, well, I mean, we did see it obviously in 2007, 2008, and this is the story I'm going to tell today. I'm of the camp that this is thin air, this has to turn. I agree with your colleagues that we're waiting for this event, and until this event happens, your yen crosses, and I hope you guys are right on your Aussie yen cross trade, but I'd be a bit nervous being long Aussie yen, being long any risk metric here because I do believe
Okay.
it's in thin air. Let me just, I guess you can see my screen. I'm on the weeklies here.
2925 was a number an excellent wave guy put out guess I had last week. So watch that number. But
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
go back. I'm going to go back, and I believe a few of our viewers, actually most of our viewers or listeners, probably have never even heard of Paul Tudor Jones.
Oh, he's my hero. All the big money's made at the turns.
Of course, you and I know him. He is our hero. He's our Michael Jordan. He's our Wilt Chamberlain.
And Blake trades for Gelos, and Gelos they trade Tudor's funds.
Nice, nice. So you guys know him, but the youngsters probably don't know him. But he made a load of money in '86 with this same type of idea, in a sense. So we're looking at the weeklies now, and we're going to go backwards now in time to the last time there was a turn. So I'm going back. 2007. So you see up here, 2007, we traded up to 1564, and we had this move from 1233 to 1564. This 20% move in a straight line. And that was July 2007. And then we had this massive move down, very similar to our December move. If you think even in percentage terms, that's 20%. It's 15 to 13. It's 200. It's 200. Yeah, it's 200 S&P points at 15. Yeah, it's 16%.
Right.
And then you see this magical mystery tour here, where we just clip the high.
Yeah.
We just clip the high, and then you get your turn. I'm of the idea that I'm not sure we're going to clip this high. So now let's go back to present day, all the way back to present day. So we've had this move up, this insane move up. We've had this move down, and now this move down, the second move down in December. I'm of the mind that we could barely clip this 2950.
Okay.
And up at 2950, I'm on red alert. Any negative sign, I pile in. But I have a feeling because of the Barron's cover and because of basically the general, I would say the general flock right now has just given up. And everyone's like, well, it's just going to float higher. Well, it's going to go higher. The Fed's gone dovish, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Oil's going to 80.
Trade deals happening, da, 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 da. Yeah.
And so, but in fact, that doesn't matter. My point is right now, and even my morning video today, you know, we run a tactical book, or I run a tactical book. and a directional book. My tactical book is supposed to make money every day, and I make money sort of 58 out of 60 months, like clockwork, in my tactical book. And that's small money that's supposed to smooth out the directional book, which pays the bills. And as you know, for someone who's been around, and for all you youngsters listening out there, the 4 days a year, the 4 obvious days of year, is how the pros make their money. That's where we get paid. When cable broke 190, I repeat, 190 back in the mid 2000s, and euro went down from 160, that's when we got paid. The rest of the time, we were just breaking even, making small profits, not losing our seat. This is going to be one of those times where when this turns, you just have to be ready for it. So you're just on high alert. You're not fading this, or if you are going to fade it, like today, I'll be selling sort of between 29.18 and 29.23, kind of what I would consider a stretch high. If I don't get paid, I don't care. If I do get paid, I will then trade it on the short side for a better average to try and scratch some cash in the S&P book. But what I'm waiting for is a daily, now we're in the dailies here, is a daily move that's going to tell me something. This day here, March 22nd, is one of those days. We almost bearish engulfed. Okay. This would be a day that I would be like, oh shit, something's about to happen. And then I would look around, see what the story is, and decide whether to pile in. I'm waiting for this type of day, and it could be a long-tailed extension high, close at the same, doji, tombstone doji.
You want a negative candle to tell you.
Yeah, or it could be the Uber IPO. So Uber IPOs, and everyone smashes it.
When is it?
That is a good question. I don't even know. It's coming up because I've seen it in the media.
Okay.
Let me see what they say. It's soon.
Okay.
Or it could be Google getting sued by the Europeans. We all saw that in the FT this weekend. There's now a tsunami of litigation. I stole that headline from one of my news feeds. Everyone is now suing Google in Europe. And why does that matter? If Google turns and then we all start hating Facebook again and the whole FANG complex turns, that could be the catalyst.
FANG has had one of the weakest responses. I mean, they were broken and they've come back a lot, 61.8, 78.6, but not close to making new highs like the S&Ps. And the NASDAQ is close to new all-time highs.
Yeah, but as you know, like a weak return is another sort of signal that we're running out of strength, but it's not the signal we need to hammer it. And this is the difference between sort of senior traders and junior traders. Junior traders are always trying to hammer it. We are paid to wait. And imagine these stories. And if you imagine enough of these stories, one of them actually typically comes true. And then you're like, oh my God, I've been thinking about that story of the 10 stories I've been thinking of. Slap yourself in the face, put on your big boy boots, and hammer it. But until then, either don't trade, which is like what a lot of the pros are doing right now. The risk reward on risk on looks a bit squirrely to us. So we're not
Tom Petty, the waiting is the hardest part.
Yeah, it's so hard, and a lot of us, are addictive personalities and we're workers. So you got to keep yourself busy. I mean, one of the things I do to keep myself busy is I read. And I don't read technical stuff or autobiographies. Sometimes I just read a book with loads of sex in it and like some murders. And it just keeps me entertained and away from getting into trouble trading dollar CAD between 133 figure 10.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll tell you, what a great interview. And what's great about it is when you could combine compelling content and having fun at the same time. So like I said at the beginning of the interview, and you're anonymous to me, you're just Mr. Privateer FX. You're also now, like it or not, buddy, my trading warrior brother.
Dale, thanks. I'll let you go on that note. I appreciate you finding me. I hope it was helpful.
Buddy. It was great. Great story. You know what? Here's a suggestion. Let me mentor you. You not only should read, you love to read books. You have a book in you. Write it.
Yeah, I've been told that by a lot of people, but I'm too tired to write
Too
a book.
lazy. I know.
Dale.
I know, man. I know. But you know what? If you really want to pay it forward and reach a lot of people, and I know it's hard work. I've tried it too and have thrown in the towel. I'm kind of like a sprinter. I could write a chapter and that's
Yeah.
it, and it's kind of a thesis. But you have a great book to share with people on your journey in trading. Just telling you, I've interviewed over 1,000 people over the last several years, and you have a very good story, and it was a pleasure meeting you.
Here's one last thing, Dale, and one of the reasons I'm not writing a book anytime soon is, and I want to get your opinion on this. Youngsters don't listen. Can you comment on that?
They don't even have. I believe the reason they don't listen is because they only text, and texting is silent. So
It's the lowest form of communication, right?
It is. And try and have a conversation with them and get them on the phone. And there's almost a fear of meeting people in person, that they need the protection of a device.
I couldn't agree more. This is one of the great things we need to fix in our society. Anyway,
Yeah,
I've said enough. Thank you for your time.
I'm an open book, man, as you can see. So
Yeah.
I want people to learn from my life, because I didn't. Anyway, buddy, great meeting you. Good hunting, and I'm on Bear Alert and S&Ps over the next week or so. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dale. Good luck out there.
All right, everyone, that's Privateer FX. You could follow him at Privateer FX. I know I'd want to see his videos and pay attention to what this guy is doing. That's a wrap. Remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. You're very welcome, Hammett. You're very welcome, Mark. Everyone loved you, Privateer. And we'll see everyone for Turnaround Tuesday. Adios.
Cheers. Ciao.
Cheers. Adios, buddy.